Okay, I've been wanting to do this for a while and I'm between sessions, so what better time than now? I'm going to remove all the channel strips. We are going to check out my board inside and out. I am going to do some preventive maintenance. I have a bunch of cleaning supplies right there. I have a table set up to put the channels on. I'm going to show you some mods I did to the board and it should be fun. So, first thing to do is remove all the channel strips, and you do that like this. Boom! All right, so here it is. It was that easy to remove all those channels. This is the inside of the console, and as you can see, it is loaded with rows of transformers. And they go all the way underneath the patch bay. These transformers is what provides a lot. It contributes a lot to that depth and that thick sound you hear with this board. All right, so if you think about a summing mixer is usually 16 channels, 24 channels, whatever it is. And then on the main outs, it'll have 2 transformers for the left and right out, okay? This console has 3 transformers for every channel. So that's all 28 channels times 3. Then you got your AUX transformers for your echo sends. Then you got your busing and every master output and input, all transformers. Every input and output of this console is going through a transformer. I believe there is 110 transformers in this console. So, the original owners of this board, which has sat in a studio in Santa Monica its entire life, had a very important mod done to this console. And if you look right here, that's it. This is the faders and the VUs buffered. They had it done in 1984. I have the paperwork for it and the schematics. This is the VU option of the console. And we will go to the patch bay here. So this is an extremely well laid out patch bay. Top row, you have your preamp outs and line outs. The second row down is your fader inputs. Third row down is your channel line outputs. Fourth row down is your tape machine input. Then it goes down to your tape machine return. And it's all labeled. Then it goes down to your channel line inputs. And then you have all these are split up to different options of your master section, sends and returns. So you have your quad mix out. This is a quad console. Your 2 mix out, mono out, 4-track tape return, stereo tape 1, stereo tape 2, Q sends, echo sends, chamber returns. These are all returns that just dump into the 2 mix. 4-track tape returns, 2-track tape returns. And then on top of that, this is an additional add-on to when they ordered the board, because it's all wired going to the back connectors. I have 2 full patch bays. So each row, I got 28 in on the top, 28 out on the bottom, 28 in on the top, 28 out on the bottom. Now, the way I have it personally is I have all my outboard compressors and EQs on the bottom bay. So this bay, I still have enough room to fill up this entire bay worth of gear. So I hit that. I have remoted out to some other bays over here, and just that's a whole nother story and a whole nother video that could take hours if I explained the wiring of my studio. So we'll just stick on the 428 board for now. Yeah, so I'm very happy with this board. The condition of it when I got it, it needed some work, and I already basically overhauled the whole thing and completely recapped it. Servicing the patch bay when I got it took care of a lot of issues that this board had, little issues. So if you have a 428 board or any board that has its own patch bay, you know, every input and every output goes out of your bay. So if you have an issue, that you could start, you know, looking there. So you see some capacitors here that I recapped on the motherboard. And there's another one back there. And I think that's about it. This board has a really cool footprint. If it was any bigger, it wouldn't fit in my room. It is 500 pounds, approximately, give or take 50 pounds. I don't know if it's 550 or 500, something like that, somewhere around there. This is a 1976 428 console. All right, so I think that is about it for the actual motherboard. And I have another spare 428 console worth of parts. I don't have the frame for it, but I have a whole motherboard with all the transformers and edge connectors on it, wrapped up, slidden in a closet. So if any of these transformers go bad, I have original replacements, or I could find a new alternative if I wanted to from Sinmag or Jensen or Lundell or whoever. Yep, very cool. We're going to move on to the channel strips now. And I got them on a table back here. The channel strips I have on this table is just the ones. I didn't want to put multiple up. We're just going to go through what I have, and I'm just going to sort of explain it to you. So even though there's 2 more channel strips to the master section, these are the main 3. There's also a communication module I have over there and a meter select module. But we're not going to go over those. Those are pretty simple. They just select what you want to see through the meters and talk back and test tones and stuff like that. But these 3 are the ones I use, and you can see there's some different types of op amps on these, all right? The original op amp is an MCI op amp. It is a 2001. Here's some spares that I have. And these are the original op amps. And some of them are labeled MCI 2001. Others, like this one right there, I don't know if you can see it, is labeled HA911. And Harrison used these op amps as well. And they have a slow slew rate. So that adds to some of that rock and roll sound. I don't want that for everything. So I came up with an idea to design an adapter. And what the adapter does, if you look, I actually got it right here. If you look, this is a 990. And it takes the 990 and puts it to a TO99 footprint. And it's low profile. I have it on, you can see it right there. And it pops right in. And now I'm able to use this adapter, goes from 2520 footprint to TO99, which the original op amp takes. So that opened up a lot of options for me to use different op amps. And some of my favorite op amps, because they're clean, they don't get in the way, is the SBA 690 that you see here from Steve Furlot Inward Connections. And that is my main op amp that I have in the master and monitor sections. So let's go through this. This over here, this first channel strip, this is the studio channel strip. And what this is playback. If I had loudspeakers in a live room, I turn that up and I could play it back for the band while they're tracking if they wanted to hear it. And I have some Neumann type op amps from Gary Barnett, that I have on the sockets there. And that's just for monitoring, all right? This is my control room monitor, and it has SBA 690 op amps. And so I have a very transparent, clean playback. So I'm hearing what the what sounds like, what the mix bus sounds like. It is very clean. These op amps sound big and wide, but they don't color. And that's what I want in my master section, because this is such a colored sounding console that I want to actually hear what my mix bus sounds like. If I had the 2001s in here like they were originally in, and I have hundreds of the originals, I could pop them back in. But it was so colored, and it's not representing what my mix bus actually sounds like. This is the main master channel, and there's a bunch of amplifiers on here. So I have 4 SBA 690s, so you got 2 pre-master fader, 2 post fader, all right? And that's just for stereo. This is a quad. So on the other side of that, the other side of the quad, I could put different amps in there and blend them together and get all different kinds of sounds and flavors. We're just going to focus on stereo for now. All right. So these, we'll split this up. You see the 990s here and the Bovas here? These Bovas, these 990s are Echo Send 1 and 2. These Bovas here are Q Send 1 and 2. So these are sends right here. So they send out, I hit a reverb, and when I return, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 echo returns, and I have 990s in there. And that is the master channel. This is a regular stock channel strip, and most of the entire board has this setup right here. It has all of the original op amps in it. You can see them right here, right there. And it has mic input transformer. And completely recapped, as you can see, I have brand new relays on daughter boards. All the relays were replaced in this board, and that's good. So the original transformer, mic input transformer, is a Suscom MI52. These sound hairy, very thick and hairy. And that's the mic input transformer. Next up, it's the same thing, but I have a good amount of channels that have, if you look at that, that is a Jensen mic input transformer 115K-E, and that's what API used for a period of time, and they're good transformers, Jensen. Again, regular 2001 op amps. Now, this is a channel that I modded, and I have 6 channels modded like this, and we're going to go through each amplifier stage. So, what we got here is I have a 990, a 990, a 990, a 990. And then these blue ones, which are AM10s, which are basically quad 8s, those are for EQ. So this first 990 is the fader op amp amplifier. The second 990 is the panning. The third is a monitor. And the fourth is an ACN, the summing. All right? Then, if you look, this donut-looking thing is the low-band inductor EQ. And this AM10 is the mid-band, and then that AM10 is the high band. So there's 7 amplifier stages going through its own op amp per channel. So every channel has 7 amplifier stages on it. And if you look right there, it has all new status switches. And again, new relays. I have 6 channels built out like this where I modded, and the rest of the entire board is the regular stock 2001 op amps. I do have a bunch of spare channels, but I haven't recapped them yet, where this board I have completely recapped everything. Every channel, every one on the motherboard, everything. So that is it. Those are the channel strips of the 428 console. And again, I got 2 different kinds of transformers here. The Suscom, which is the original, and then Jensen. I think I got 6 or 8 of these, and then the rest Suscom. And all my spares are Suscom too. So the original ones are very cool. So these are the channel strips. This is the 428 console. I'm not going to go over my spares. I'm not going to pull them out. Some are missing 2001s. A lot of 2001s are there. I got to pull them off and, inventory them. It's a lot. All right, so let's examine this channel strip. From the top down, you have a channel trim, a mic trim, a 20 dB pad for the mic preamp, your busing, your Q1, 2, echo 1, 2. So that's 4 sends that go out of the board. Your matrix for your status, different statuses. There's different ways to monitor and hear effects. You have a speaker mute. See this FB here? That is for your front bus and your rear bus. And you could blend anywhere in between. I'm going stereo left, right. Stereo left and right out, so I keep it on the front. But I could have different op amps in the back quad and blend between the two to get different flavors. You have your pan, which is left, right, center, full panning. Rotary pot. EQ. Different EQ frequencies. 60 or 100 hertz. The mid, you could pick which band you want on the mid. Boost and cut. And 7.5K and 10K for the high end. So there's your frequencies on the EQ. And then you have another mute. Now this is your mix mute that mixes the, actually mutes it off of the mix bus. And then you have your PNG fader. So there's 2 different ways to monitor, the rotary pot or the fader. And there's 2 different mutes. This mute just mutes it from the speakers so you don't hear it if you don't want to hear it. This mute mutes it from the mix bus. All right, now let's look at the inside of the channel strip. So I already explained the op amps, and the EQ has the induction. The pan pot is a 4 stack because it's quad panning. You're bussing all shadow switches. And then look at these EQ switches. I don't know if you'll be able to see them. See these? They're Gray Hills. And they're all stepped. Nice chunky clicks. I don't know if you could. All hand-wired resistor with resistors. Gray Hill. These are top-notch, man. They don't make stuff like they used to. So each one of these pots has resistors. It's a resistor pot, all hand wired. And these EQ knobs, they're really chunky, stepped EQ. All right. And there's the mid-band frequency. Come on, let me zoom out. Sorry about that. Mid-band frequency and the mid-band booster cut. So it's pretty simple EQ if you look at it. For the low-end induction, you want 60K, you push it in. You want 100K, or sorry, you want 60 hertz, you push it in. You want 100 hertz, you take it out. So if you want to boost 100 hertz, you just take the low end, 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way up to 10 dB, plus or minus. Mid, you got a bunch of different frequencies you could pick from. All these different frequencies on your mid band. And then you could boost it. Or if you boost it up, say 4 dB, and you hit the mid cut, you're now cutting at 4 dB. And then the high band, you get to pick between 7.5 and 10K. And you could boost or cut up to 10 dB, plus minus. Now, there is options here. If you don't like the frequencies, you could swap out these resistors with different values and get different frequencies easily. And it says in the manual what values, with what frequencies. Okay, and then this relay is for your status. We already went over the mic input. Yeah, so they made these well back then. These Gray Hills. PNG faders. Nice mute pots from EAO. And that is an input channel strip. It's very important to have your converter's calibrated coming out right. So the way that works is -18 coming out of Pro Tools should equal 1.23 volts. So you get a multimeter, turn it to volts, that's DC, turn it to AC, and I gotta, see, I made this cable. It's a multimeter, and then the other end of it is a TT patch cable. So what you do is, my output, doesn't matter which one, all 32 channels, I have calibrated to 1.23 volts. And I could go all the way down the line of all 32, and they're all at 1.23 volts. Here's channel 24, 1.23. So it's very easy to calibrate the burls. You just got to be able to get behind them. There's a little pot you adjust on them. But I just wanted to throw this in there so you could see that calibration is very important. All right, everything's back together. I pulled up a Pro Tools session. I got some drums here, and I put the PCM 60 returning to channel 27 and 28. I have a drum bus set up, and we're going to go through some of the features of the board. First of all, we know about the EQ. None of that is on. Let's go over the mutes. I said there was 2 mutes before. It's these mutes here, which is your mix bus mutes, and these mutes here, which is your speaker mutes. So a scenario you would use for one or the other. Say you're doing a print and you don't want a guitar during a certain part of the print. You would mute out the guitar, okay? Say you were doing a print and you want the guitar on the print, but you don't want to hear it during the print because you're trying to pay attention to the bass in that part. You would mute out the speakers, and then it would still be on the print. That's just one scenario out of many. Another thing, the rotary faders and the long throw faders. So there's these status buttons down here. If I have it in remix, I'm mixing on all the long throw faders. If I put it to tape, it goes to all the rotary faders. A scenario for this, say I have a mix going on the board and I don't want to touch my long throws. I could throw it in tape and monitor, say I'm tracking a band, I could monitor off my rotary faders. That's just one scenario out of many. Another thing I could do is, if I could keep it in remix, be using my long throw, and say I want to use a pair of rotary faders, I could just hit fader, and you see those lit up like that. Now it's on the rotary fader and the long throw is no longer in use. So cool features, very useful once you get into it. There is 4 aux sends. So if you look here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. The first 2 lighter colored ones are called cues, so you can set up headphone mix, whatever you want, send it to the band's headphones, or you could use them as effects sends, or whatever you want. Echo 1, I usually keep my PCM 60 on. Echo 2, I usually have either the Effectron or the SBX 90 on, and then Q1 or 2, I could set up a little bus, send it to a compressor, return it to any of the echo returns. So besides 28 channels, you could use any of these 4 returns, and they dump right into the mix bus. And what I do with that is I set up reverbs and effects in the box, and I return it to 2 of these channels, hard pan left and right. It dumps right into the mix bus. Just another feature. There is 24 bus on this console, so you see these buttons here. You could push them in, say this is the kick, this is the snare. I could now take the kick and snare. It comes out of the busing of the patch bay. I can hit a compressor and return it to either the echo returns or a pair of channels, or my summing mixer and dump my summing mixer in. That's another feature. All right, so this is a very colored board, but say I wanted a cleaner sound. On the patch bay, there is a fader input option. Instead of going the regular channel input, I can go fader input, and it bypasses the input transformer per channel on the channel. So I could go into the fader input, and it's just a cleaner way into the board. It bypasses the input transformer. You're still hitting the output transformers of the board. It's just a little cleaner. I don't do that too much because I like the color of the board, and I already cleaned it up with my SBA 690 op amps in the master section. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dial in these drums really quick. I just grabbed a snippet, and it's going to keep repeating, and we're going to dial it in. It's going to be dry at first, then I'm going to show you how I use effects on the board, outboard effects. Now I'm going to dial in some reverb. All right, now I got a little bit of reverb. So what that is echo 1 going out, hitting my PCM 60 and returning to channel 27 and 28. Now, I already have the API 2500 coming to these two channels for a drum bus. So all I have to do is engage it and blend it in the taste parallel compression, and I'm going to do that now. So let's hear it. Also, when I engage these two, echo return 3 and 4, I have an in the box only on the snare reverb triggered out coming back into here, hard pan left and right. So within a matter of minutes, let's hear these drums. This is the sound we got. So that's pretty much the board. We've seen the inside of it. I went through the features of it. There's lots of different things you could do with it. I showed you the multiple transformers inside the frame of the console on the channel strips. And I just wanted to add, I didn't always have a console. I've owned consoles before, but I went through a lot of summing mixers, and there is a way you could get a console sound with summing mixers. Let me explain this to you. Here's my summing mixer right here. And it doesn't have anything to it besides a mix bus insert, meaning I could put mix bus compression and EQ on it, and it's pre-master fader, so the master output fader doesn't affect it. So, but here's the thing that I'm trying to say. Even though it doesn't have as many transformers as a console, there's still things you could do. What you do is this. You take stems out of Pro Tools, say your drums, left and right out of Pro Tools. Say you got 16 drums, set up an auxiliary track, bus out of Pro Tools, left and right, go into a pair of your preamps. Now, if you have line amps, if your preamps have line amps, that's great. If not, you'll have to pad it down. So you could get these pads, and what these do is they pad down your preamps so they accept line level. And what that does is now it's a line amp. It's the same thing as a mixer, like my console right here. There's tons of different amplifier stages, all right? And what you're doing is you're recreating that. You buy maybe 8 or 12 of these, and you put a stereo pair of drums into preamps, out of your preamps, into your summing mixer. Then you set up a guitar bus. Take all your guitars, mix them in the box, auxiliary out, a stereo left and right, another stereo left and right, pad down your preamps into another pair of preamps, all right? Gain stage on your preamps, make sure you got your levels right. That goes in your summing mixer, and so on. Do a vocal bus. You got 8, 10 tracks of vocals, set up an auxiliary track into a pair of preamps, pad them down, unless you have line amps, pad them down, set the gain in them, then go into your summing mixer. So what are you doing there? You're doing the same thing as a console. You're adding multiple amplifier stages. Multiple amplifier stages. Then go into your summing mixer and then print off the 2 bus of your summing mixer, and you have basically what they did in the 70s. Tons of transformers, tons of color, and you could do different kinds of preamps. I got 10 API preamps, right? So I could pad these down, and I got a bunch of Neve preamps. So I could send my stereo drums out to a pair of APIs, right? Then these go out into my summing mixer. My guitars in the API, all 10 guitar tracks in the API, those go into my summing mixer, and then it sums out the main of the summing mixer. You could do it with Neve, or you could mix and match. Now, if you have channel strips like these already take line inputs, so you don't need to pad them down. You just go into the line input of the preamps, and that's it. That's all you got to do. And that's how you get lots of different amplifier stages into your mix. The most important thing is just getting your gain staging right when you do that. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Take care.